there, welcome to Hummingbird Yoga Studio and Yoga with Susan. I'm Susan. This video is going to be a 30-minute gentle beginner practice and is very typical of what I would offer in a full hour class. So we're going to start seated, so you can grab a block and set it anywhere on your mat. And then perch your butt on that block. And if you can kind of scooch yourself to that forward long edge, crossing your legs and allowing your pelvis to tilt, which will create more space in through your hips. If it's not possible to cross your legs, then feeling free to take your legs out in front. So just finding a comfortable seated position to get started. And then I always like to start each practice with a little bit of a breathing practice, because yoga is not only for our physical practice of stretching and forward folding and all these kinds of things, but also being more mindful of our breath and just calming the mind to be in this present moment. So shoulders back, down and away. You can close your eyes. You can either leave your hands facing down on your legs or turn your hands so your palms are facing up. And you can bring any one of your fingers to the thumb. On the front page of my website, you will see the different mudras and what each one means if you're interested. And then let's start to bring our thoughts internally. Taking long breaths in and out through your nose. Noticing how you're feeling, physically, emotionally, mentally. And then notice if you're holding on to any tight spots in your body. For me, personally, I often clench my teeth and I often clench my hands. So by just being more mindful of that, then I can relax and release that tension in my body and bring my attention more to my breath and into this present moment. So just trying to use this time to clear the mind, taking your busy to-do list, putting it into a cupboard, shutting the door, and tucking the key away for this next 30 minutes. Let's take a couple more rounds of breath here. And your next breath in, you can open your eyes. And we'll start with some side bends and some twists. So bring your right hand to your right hip. Inhale that left arm up and exhale here for a side bend. So we're pressing that left hip down to get into that left hip flexor and create space in the ribs. You can leave that right hand by your hip, or if you want to make an adjustment, you can slide it out further, maybe getting a little deeper into that left side. So again, just a personal preference. Next breath in, let's exhale, plant that left hand on the mat, and inhale that right arm up and over for a side bend. Again, thinking about pressing that right hip down so you're getting into the hip flexors and creating space in through the ribs to create more room for your heart and lungs. I'm going to move a little bit quicker with the next two rounds, so breathe in and out, plant that right hand, left arm comes up and over. This time at the end of your breath, you'll inhale. And exhale, windmill those arms to the left side for your side bend. Again, at the end of your breath, you'll inhale and exhale, side bend to the right. Breathe in and out, side bend to your left. Come back to center at the end of your breath. And then let's recross our legs so the less dominant one's out front. And you can certainly stay on your block or come off. And then this time we'll set ourselves up here for a simple seated twist. So again, right hand, right hip. This time that left hand comes onto that right knee and we're turning and twisting through the lower belly, through the rib cage, and then the shoulders. So we're pressing down through that right hand and lifting up through the crown of the head, breathing through that lower belly. Next breath in, let's exhale, turn and twist to our left side. Again, lifting up through the crown of the head. So you're twisting the full length of your spine and breathing through each of those three parts of the twist. And just like with our side bends, we're going to move a little bit quicker using our breath to move. So breathe in. And on your exhale, turn and twist to your right side. End of your breath, you'll inhale. Exhale, turn and twist to the left. And your breath, you'll inhale and exhale, turn and twist to the right. And your breath, inhaling and exhaling to the left. Let's come back to center, uncross those legs and come into tabletop. Bringing your hands under your shoulders, knees under the hips. We'll do 4 rounds here of cat-cow. So we're starting here by pressing into the fingertips, nice wide active hands like we're going to open up a pickle jar. We want to take the pressure off our wrists. So breathe in as you drop the belly, lift the gaze, open your heart for your cow. Exhale, round the back, chin to the chest for cat. Inhaling for cow, exhaling for cat. Next 2 rounds, try doing this with your eyes closed. So breathing in for your cow, and as you exhale, really noticing how your spine is changing shape for your angry cat. Inhaling for cow belly, and our last round as we exhale for cat. Let's come back to a neutral spine. Let's take the right leg long. Try to press that right hip down to keep the hips even, and pressing that right heel against an imaginary wall behind us, toes pointing down. We're going to do 3 little crunches here. So you can do this with both hands on the mat, or if you want to challenge yourself, you can certainly do opposite arm and leg, so that left arm up. I'm just going to cue with both hands on the mat. Breathe in and out as you round the back, bring that knee to the nose. Inhale, take that leg long. Exhale, round the back, knee to the nose. Inhale, leg goes long. 3rd and final round here. Exhale, rounding the back, knee to the nose. And then bring that knee back down to the mat. If you have bad wrists, we're going to take a little bit of relief in between sides here. So your option, whether you want to stay on the tops of your feet or tuck your toes and shift your sit bones to your heels. And we'll just do a couple of rounds of wrist circles here. So just drawing circles in the air with your fingertips, remembering to go both ways, just taking a little bit of relief between sides here. When you're ready, come back into your tabletop, hands underneath the shoulders, pressing into those fingertips. Left leg goes long as you press your heel against that imaginary wall behind you, toes pointing down. And again, your option, both hands on the mat, or if you want to challenge yourself, lifting that right hand up. 3 rounds here again as we breathe in and out, rounding the back, knee to the nose. Inhale, leg goes long. Exhale, round the back, knee to the nose. Inhale, leg goes long. Exhale, round the back, knee to the nose. Bring that knee back down to the mat. Shift those sit bones again to your heels. Toes can be tucked or tops of your feet. And we'll just do some wrist circles here in both directions. All right, let's come back into tabletop. We're going to do a shoulder stretch of puppy pose. So we're going to leave our hips over our knees and just walk our hands forward, lowering the ears between the biceps. Some people can get their forehead all the way down to the mat, but if you've got tight shoulders like I do, that might not be possible. Some people lower their forearms down to the mat. Again, that's just an option. So just find your version of puppy pose with those ears between the biceps, and then bringing your attention to the back side of your heart, breathing and just feeling this nice shoulder stretch. You can spread your fingers here a little bit more if you like to even kind of get more into the wrists and to those fingers. Just taking a couple more breaths here. Next breath in, let's lift up that forehead, slide those hands back in underneath your shoulders, and then we'll tuck the toes and roll onto the soles of our feet at the back of the mat, straightening both those legs and coming into a standing forward fold. So this is an inversion where we're getting the blood running in a different direction. Our hearts are higher than our heads. So your option here, you can grab your hands or your arms in front of your legs or behind the legs. And then from there, you can maybe just kind of sway from side to side, opening up the small of your back. But that crown of the head is coming down towards the toes, and your gaze is back between the legs. So nice long neck, and we're bending into those knees. It's really early on in the practice, so your hamstrings might feel kind of tight. So bending into the knees and really feeling that belly breath on your thighs. Taking a couple more breaths here. And then if you are swaying from side to side, we'll meet in the center. Release your hands down to your toes, and then like a rag doll, just gonna roll really nice and slowly on up to standing, allowing that blood to come back to your heart. You can do a little costume adjustment. Don't want to move too quickly here, so you want to allow that blood to really come back to the heart, so you don't want to be too lightheaded here before we move. And then when you feel like moving, you can make your way to the top of your mat, bringing those feet hip distance apart. Lifting up the toes and bringing the toes back down so you can feel the four corners of your feet. Bring those shoulders back down and away. And again, imagine that block between your thighs. So squeezing that imaginary block, and when you do that, you might feel how your spine lifts up through each vertebrae in your back. And imagine a string pulling on the crown of your head as you're lifting up. Nice tall yogi posture, shoulders back. We don't have a hunch in our back. Rooting down, lifting up. Breathing, of course. So we're just going to get our bodies warmed up here. So eyes open, a little micro bend to the knees, and inhale, arms to the sky. Exhale, hinge at the hip crease and bend into the knees to bring your hands down to your toes. Breathe in for a half lift. So your hands are to your shins, long flat back, and you're getting this sensation of pushing your bum out so you can feel this hamstring stretch. Take a breath in and exhale to hinge and fold. Turn that gaze back between the legs, bend into those knees, and reverse swan dive up to standing. So arms up to the side, palms touch overhead. We're going to take an optional back bend at the top here. So some people can't do back bends very well. So only if that feels good in your body. And for back bends, we're just pushing our thighs forward. Try not to slide your whole body back. Keep your ears between your biceps. Just lift the gaze here. Don't flop the neck. Lots of little bones and muscles in the neck you want to keep safe. Breathe in and out. We'll repeat that by bending into the knees, folding forward, gaze back between the legs, crown of the head down to the mat. Inhaling for that half lift, hands to your shins, that long flat back, shoulders away from the ears, pushing the bum out for that hamstring stretch. Breathing in and out to fold, bending into those knees. We'll do that one more time as we inhale to reverse swan dive. Take that optional back bend at the top, ears between the biceps, just pushing the thighs forward. Take a breath in. Exhale to hinge and fold, bending into those knees. Gaze back between the legs and inhaling for that half lift. Long flat back. Long neck, feeling that hamstring stretch. Breathing in and out to fold forward, plant the hands and step back with that right foot, bringing the knee down to the mat. Lift up your chest and bring your hands onto that front thigh. And then maybe if you're able, creep that front foot forward a little bit more so you can shift your hips forward and get a nice little stretch through that right hip. So nice long tall spine here, lifting up through the crown of the head, sinking down into those hips to get that nice hip stretch. Most of us have terribly tight hips from too much sitting. Couple more breaths. Next breath in. We're going to come into a twist, so bring both your hands to your heart center here. So palms pressing together. Elbows are lined up here, so your elbows are out to the side. And then bring that right elbow across the body to that left knee. And then we're going to turn and twist here. Keep pressing the palms together so that your elbows are stacked. Back knee can stay down, or if you want to build more strength in your hips, tuck the toes and lift that knee up. But for beginners, I would suggest leaving that knee down. Being mindful of that twist through your belly with your breath. Take another breath in. Exhale, come back to center. Plant those hands on each side of that foot. Tuck the back toes to lift the back knee. And we'll step back for a down dog. Hands are forward and wide. Wide so they're on each long edge of the mat. Pushing your hands away from you as you draw the chest back towards the hips. Lifting up those hips, making that sharp V shape. Walking the heels maybe to stretch those hamstrings. Inhale to your tippy toes. Exhale, take a big deep bend to the knees, look forward, and walk your feet to the top of your mat for your forward fold. Those feet are hip distance apart here again. Breathing in for your half lift, pressing that bum out for your hamstring stretch, and exhaling to fold. Bending into the knees, reverse swan dive to standing for that optional back bend here again at the top. Don't let that neck flop, just press the thighs forward as you inhale. Exhale to hinge and fold. Gaze back between the legs. Breathe in for that half lift and that hamstring stretch. Shoulders away from the ears. Inhaling, exhaling to fold. Bend into the knees. Reverse swan dive to standing. Again, optional back bend at the top. Keep moving, exhaling to hinge and fold. Take your half lift and exhale to fold. Step back with that left foot. Bring the knee down to the mat. Lift up your heart, hands onto that front thigh, and then step that foot forward a little bit so you can shift your hips forward and get deeper into those hips for a nice little stretch. And again, think about lifting up through the crown of the head. Maybe even lift the gaze. Couple more breaths here as we get that nice stretch through those tight hips. And your next breath in, we'll do a twist. So hands to your heart center, elbows are stacked. Left elbow comes across the body. And then press those palms together to keep those elbows stacked. And again, you can lift up that back knee if you want to build more strength in your hips. But as beginners, I would suggest you keep the knee planted so you feel more steady. And just be more mindful of the breath. That lower belly breath might feel a bit pinched off. And your next breath in, let's come back to center. Plant those hands on each side of that front foot. Tuck the back toes to lift the back knee, and we'll step back for a down dog. Walking those heels, stretching those hamstrings, pushing your hands away from you. Make that sharp V shape with your hips. And your next breath in, we're going to come into a child's pose. So lower those knees down to the mat. Whatever version of child's pose you like, separating the knees, sit bones to the heels, or knees together, arms down to your sides. I do recommend you be mindful of how your neck is feeling. Stacking those fists or maybe grabbing your block to slide in underneath your forehead. Arms overhead or down at your sides. Bringing your attention to the back side of your heart, to your breath. Long breaths in and out through your nose. Noticing where your sit bones are to your heels. So again, Child's pose is a really great posture where we can measure the progress of our practice. Let's take about 3 more rounds of breath. And your next breath in. Let's come out of our child's pose. And again, we can roll onto the soles of our feet at the back of the mat, coming into a standing forward fold, feet hip distance apart, and that gaze back between the legs. So crown of the head's coming down to the mat in this inversion. And again, like a rag doll, we'll just roll up our legs, one vertebrae at a time to come to standing. Again, you can do a little hip swiggle, adjust your costume. And then we'll make our way to the center of our mat, facing the long edge. Again, feet hip distance apart. You can lift up your toes, bringing them back down again, shoulders back down and away. If you feel steady enough to do so, you can maybe close your eyes, checking in on your heartbeat. We always want our breath to be nice and smooth. So if you can imagine an egg sitting here in your chest, the egg has those nice smooth edges. So that's the way we want our breath, nice and smooth. Anytime it gets kind of choppy, that's when you can make your way into a child's pose, whether I'm offering it for you or not. It's really about being mindful of your own body and your own needs. If you have your eyes closed, you can open them. And then let's step our feet wide and turn those toes in towards each other a bit. So we want to keep our knees safe. If you got your knees turned or your toes turned out, it can be a little bit more stress on your knees. Let's pivot on the left toes, bending into that left knee. So we're going to set ourselves up here for Warrior Two and do a little bit more hip work. So heels are lined up, pressing into the back edge of the back foot, and this front knee is over the front heel. Again, as we progress in our practice, we're trying to get this front thigh parallel. Arms come up parallel as we gaze out through those front fingers. So we're lifting up through the pelvic floor and our shoulders are stacked over our hips. So we're going to work our hips here. So your next breath in, straighten the front knee and press your palms together overhead. Exhale, bend into that front knee. We're going to do this 4 times in total. Inhale to lift up. Exhale to sink down. 2 more times as we inhale up and exhale down. And our last round of inhaling up, exhaling down. You can lower your arms, straighten the legs, and turn those toes out to the long edge again. And switching sides, pivoting on the right toes, bending into the right knee. Heels are lined up, front knee is over the heel. We're lifting up through the pelvic floor to stack our shoulders over the hips. Arms are long and parallel and gaze out through those front fingers. Again, we'll work these hips here as we inhale to straighten the front leg. Palms touch overhead and exhale, sink into that front knee. Inhaling to lift, exhaling down. 2 more times as we inhaling up, exhaling down. Last round of inhaling and exhaling. Float your arms down, straighten that front knee and turn the toes towards the long edge of your mat and heel toe your feet together for another little hip swiggle. Okay, we're going to do a balancing posture next. So we'll do tree pose. If you want to move closer to a wall or if you have a chair handy, you can do that, or just grab a block to rest your toes on. If you are using a block, we'll place that block on the outside edge of that right foot. We'll meet again in mountain pose, feet hip distance apart, lifting up the toes, bringing them back down, shoulders back down and away. So here we want to make ourselves into that pencil shape. So nice stiff body, where we're rooting down, lifting up, and imagining that block is actually between our thighs. So we're squeezing and lifting up through each vertebrae in our back. Finding a spot you can softly gaze at, something that's not going to move. We'll start on the right side first. We'll shift this weight slightly to the left, lift up those right toes, opening up that right thigh, and then either pressing your toes into that block and dragging that block a little bit closer into that inside of the standing leg, or putting it anywhere on the standing leg except that knee joint. Arms to your sides, at your heart center, or lifting up to come into a full tree pose. Trying to straighten that standing leg, building strength in that hip. Couple more breaths. Next breath in, we'll release that. Both feet on the mat for a schwiggle, and if you're using a block, sliding that over to the left side. Meeting again in mountain, toes up and down, shoulders up and down, rooting down, lifting up. I also find if you can soften your face, so if you're clenching your teeth, that also makes you kind of tip over a bit. So softening your face and the jaw. Finding your spot you can softly gaze at, and then shifting that weight slightly to the right, lifting up that left foot, placing it on the block or on the standing leg, except that knee joint. You may find that one side is different than the other, and it is because we probably have one hip stronger than the other. Arms at the sides, heart center, or up and over into your full tree pose. Couple more breaths. And your next breath in, let's release. Feet to the mat for another little schwiggle. And then we can clear the deck and make our way down onto the mat, onto our backs. We'll start here with just taking the legs long and wide, allowing the spine just to relax. So pulling those shoulders back so you can feel them on the back of your mat. Connect with your breath. Try to find those smooth edges to that egg-shaped breath. And from here, we'll do a figure four. So bending the knees, soles of the feet to the mat. Right leg goes long and crossing that heel on top of that left thigh. 3 options: pressing that knee away, lifting that left foot up, interlacing those fingers behind the shin, and then either leaving that left knee bent or taking that leg long. You can pull and release that left knee into the mat if you have it lifted, or just simply use that hand to push that knee away if that feels nice. Just a gentle stretch we're trying to achieve in that right hip. Taking about 3 more full rounds of breath. And your next breath in, let's release those feet to the mat. Step the feet wide. We'll do a windshield wiper between sides as we inhale and exhale to the right. Inhale to center, exhale to the left. Come back to center, step the feet together, left leg goes long, crossing that heel on top of that right thigh, pressing that left knee away from you with your hand or lifting that right leg up. Knee is bent or leg is long. And either pulling and releasing that knee or thigh in towards you to get a little bit deeper stretch in that left hip. So find your version again of your figure four, what feels best in your body. 4 more full rounds of breath. And your next breath in, let's release this. Uncross those legs, step the feet wide as you inhale. Exhale both those knees to the right. Inhale to center. Exhale, both those knees to the left. Come back to center, and you can take your legs long again, and we'll end our practice with a short little Shavasana. You can actually stay here as long or as short as you like. I will bring my hands to my heart center and wish you namaste, and thank you for sharing your practice today.